Hi, my name is Marla Neufeld, and welcome to the Surrogacy Space. Today, we are speaking with the Surrogacy Foundation. We are joined by Alexandra French. She is the co-founder of the organization, and Zach French, the executive director. And I want to thank you both so much for your time and for creating this amazing organization for our industry.
Thank you so much for having us on today.
Yeah, likewise.
Absolutely. So I defer to who wants to answer my questions, but would just to love to hear a little bit about the two of you, your background, and kind of like how your personal experience has shaped the development of the Surrogacy Foundation.
Yeah, so I think, like many people in this industry, nonprofit or for profit, we started with a personal experience. We were very fortunate to have our first child, Tanner, naturally about 8 years ago. But then Alex was rocked with some breast cancer news in 2019. And we were fortunate that the oncologist had a very clear treatment plan. And they came to us and said, before we start any of this treatment, we're going to need you to preserve your fertility. And we're going to
Hmm.
make sure that we get you into these clinics and get it done. And we've now come to realize that's not actually that common, which is kind of sad.
Yeah, I was
But
gonna say, like, what foresight to make sure you guys had that done? Because
Yeah,
I'm
it
sure
was
it's,
really incredible. I mean, he was like, "Okay, Monday you're having your MRI, Tuesday you're having your CAT scan, Thursday you're meeting with the fertility doctor." I was like,
wow.
"Okay." It was just like everything was scheduled. I just
Yeah,
had to show
because
up. I didn't have to
it's
have that conversation about like whether or not, chemo was going to kill my fertility or not.
I mean, you'd think it should almost be like a best practice for any, woman of this age that could have kids to do that. But I'm so grateful to hear that they suggested that to you.
yeah, it was really helpful. And so we went on her cancer journey. And fortunately, through chemo, double mastectomy, and radiation, Alex has now
Mm.
been cancer free for 6 years.
Oh,
Uh,
amazing.
but
Congratulations for
Yeah,
everything.
thank you.
we got one little curveball, which was that during the double mastectomy, the cancer had spread to her lymph nodes, and they were able to remove all the cancer. But what they found when they removed the lymph nodes was actually a cancer that they didn't know she had, that
Mm.
was actually hormone positive. And the reason that was a big deal is because her previous cancer, HER2 positive, she could have been, on hormone suppressors for about a year and a half, and then we could have gone off them for a little while to try to have a kid naturally. But with hormone positive cancer, she now had to be on hormone blockers for a minimum of 5 years,
Mm.
sometimes 10 years. So we really found out at that point that if we wanted to have a genetic child, that surrogacy was the only route that we
Right.
had.
Right.
And so we went on that journey. We didn't know anything about it.
Mm.
I always joke that the only thing I knew about it was the movie Baby Mama with Tina Fey.
Right.
And like, finding information about it still is not great. And so we called the one acquaintance that we knew who had had a traumatic birth and ended up having to use surrogacy. And they told us about an agency here in Atlanta where we are, and we went and talked to them during COVID,
Mm.
and they
No, COVID hadn't happened yet.
COVID hasn't happened
You're,
yet.
No.
you're COVID adjacent.
Yeah.
COVID adjacent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Gearing up for it.
we, so my double mastectomy was we met with the agency in February of 2020. So it was right before we
Okay.
got our name on the wait list.
Oh, it's right on the cusp
It
there.
was right at the
Yeah.
cusp. And so, like, we met with them in person. And at the time, they reported us, they're like, oh, it might take like 6 to 9 months before you might have your first match. 2 months later, we were matched.
Oh, wow.
Because
Okay.
of
Meant to
COVID, it
be.
actually
Right.
expedited our process.
For some, yes.
Yeah, because a lot of people had so much uncertainty, and I think a lot of people were afraid of traveling and everything like that. So we were
Right.
moved up the list.
And the
Uh,
fact that you could do it locally and had your clinic there helps a lot.
yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. And so you have a personal experience with surrogacy, and how do you jump from that to creating this foundation that's now kind of like a leader in the industry and helping so many people?
So when I was first diagnosed, we had so many people keep saying like, "Well, now that you have cancer, what are you going to do to give back?" And I kept saying like, "This is such a
Wow.
weird." Sorry,
Sorry.
dog came in
Uh,
here and she's like under the table.
Oh,
Okay,
okay, what are you doing? What are you doing?
but sorry.
Dogs are welcome.
She's 12 and she's known to
Oh,
just sit right in front of you and pee now on the carpet.
oh, stop.
So we get her out of
Yeah.
here.
Sorry about that.
She obviously
Oh
needs
no,
to get
it's fine.
back in.
I'll
And just
read
let
you
her
the.
out. Let's get started. She'll
Really?
walk.
And
Oh
if the dog comes, and we don't mind pets, so mine
yeah.
She
sometimes
was like
barks.
under the table, like shaking the desk.
Yeah, yeah. No, I understand. Okay, I will just
Okay.
re-ask the question. So you had a personal experience with surrogacy. How did you take the leap from your personal experience to creating the Surrogacy Foundation?
So when I was first diagnosed with breast cancer, I had so many people keep asking me, well, now that you have cancer, what are you going to do to give back? And I kept thinking that is such a strange question to be asking. My response was like, I'm going to live? Like,
Yeah,
what do you want
right.
from me?
Recover and
um, and that thought kind of, this question stayed in the back of my mind the whole time. I went through treatment, and then we actually met with the agency we ended up going with. They had mentioned another organization. They're like, oh, you should reach out to them about a support group. And I thought that was so strange that I've only ever known this other organization to give out grants. A lot of my friends had gone through them previously.
mm,
So came home that day and I started really doing a deep dive at that point into surrogacy and what's available to different people, and noticed that there's very few grants that are out there.
yes,
The few that are there, give five, maybe $10,000, which is phenomenal. But how does that
right,
really impact someone when they come up with $150,000?
right.
And then there were a few that were location based, so you had to be, in Chicago or in California. And I remember I was like sitting on the couch in the living room, and Zach was in the kitchen. I was like, "Babe, I figured it out." And he's like,
I
"What are
have
you
giving back.
talking about?" Yeah,
Yeah.
I was like, "I want us to raise some money to help other people go through surrogacy." I mean, this was the same day that we had met with our agency,
Yeah, I mean,
like
you're
very
literally like
early
in
on.
the trenches and helping other people, or tr
Yeah.
starting to.
And so, fast forward, we, have an amazing experience with our surrogate and get our beautiful baby girl. And then when she was approaching about 6 months old, we were like, okay, like we've now felt all the emotions. We've kind of gone through it and we were ready to start raising some money. So we actually called our agency that we used. And we were like, all right, we want to raise some money and give it to you to give away to another intended parents.
Huh.
And she was like, oh, we can't take the money. We're a for profit, but you can give it to another organization,
Right.
give it away. And I was like, no, like I want to make sure it's used like for surrogacy.
Right.
um, and so we decided to start a
Hmm.
501(c)(3).
Wow. Is that your first one that you started?
It is, yes.
Okay, great. I mean, you gotta start somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
That's just so incredible. And so, for the listeners that might not know, could you explain what is the Surrogacy Foundation? I know you mentioned grants for surrogacy, but kind of like the mission and kind of some of the main goals of the organization.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we really distilled our mission down to one sentence, and then how we're achieving that is a little bit expanded. So
Okay.
our goal is to make surrogacy accessible by taking it mainstream. So like, what does that mean, right?
Yeah.
We view the barriers to entry for accessibility as threefold. There's a massive financial barrier, as we've already kind of discussed, which was like our first thing that we tackled with our grants. There's also a huge education barrier, which we kind of alluded to earlier. It's hard to find good information about surrogacy. It seems like it's very disparate, and a lot of the times you're going to have to be digging for hours and going to message boards and things like that to find it. And sometimes it's not good quality,
Hmm.
which can actually deter more people than
Right.
actually get
Or
them
people
to.
go based upon baby mama, right?
Yeah, they do. They go based off that or need, and sometimes they may just be like, this is too much for me, right? And we don't want those people to drop off if they truly want a family.
Right.
And then finally, there's a huge stigma. Stigmas have come at a macro level, all the way down to a micro level between the headlines that we've seen in the news recently,
Hmm.
where there's fraud in the industry, there's some issues with international intended parents,
Yes.
but those are only a small portion
Yes.
of the amazing journeys that happen, a very, very small portion.
Right.
So
It
we
goes to
want to
like you hear the
proliferate.
worst of things sometimes.
Yeah, it is. And look, I get it. The fear, the anger, those harder emotions, like those things are what drives clicks. And so no shame at the media industry for aligning with the incentives they have. But we want to tell first person stories about what we call the magic of surrogacy, the fact that a minimum of 7 to 10 people have come together to make this family's dream come true.
Right.
And we are doing it with our grants, but there's so many other professionals and people in our field that have been doing it for a long time that are now finding it hard to practice because of that stigma related to it. And so
Right.
we look at those three barriers as our unique opportunities. And so
Amazing.
like the financial grants are our kind of our flagship thing. We've given out two $100,000 grants in
I
the
mean,
past
that's
two
just
years, and we currently
amazing.
have two grants open. $250,000 grant, $250,000 about in value for these grants. So we have our $100,000 grant that's a national grant, and then we have a full grant that was sponsored by Hatch Fertility.
Okay.
They're covering every single cost but the clinic related costs, mostly embryo transfer.
Okay.
And that will be closing soon. So we'll be able to award amazing families with those grants. But also, when it comes to education, you kind of have to look to my background is technology. And I feel like one of the things that technology gets right is the fact that they take a one-to-many approach. So what does
Mm.
that mean? It means that if you leverage technology, that you can proliferate things a lot easier than word of mouth or
Right.
other means. And so we're actually building a chatbot right now that will launch very soon that'll actually allow parents to one, find every single nonprofit in the space that provides education, grants, or support to who you are. So if I'm
Mm.
Zach French, I'm from Atlanta, I'm Jewish, and my wife had
Right.
breast cancer, there's certain organizations that will only help people like me, right? And so same to everybody else. And there's no
Awesome.
good way to find that out.
Well, you'll
So we
have to
want to
share
make
that with
sure that
us
that's
too.
accessible.
We
What's
love to
that?
we'd love to share that with our listeners and my clients. So obviously, we'll stay in touch on that.
Absolutely, absolutely. It'll be launching in the next couple months. So, and then the second version of that's going to be comprehensive surrogacy research and information. So, all the trauma that you've dealt with and everything probably leads you to not want to discuss your issues with everybody else. We're going to put you in front of something that will not judge you, but has actually been curated by professionals with 10, 20, 30 years of experience to be only the best information. So if
Awesome.
you're getting high anxiety at 2 in the morning and you want to learn more about surrogacy, you can go do that, right?
Awesome.
And trust that you're getting a good education resource. And then finally, it's about that first person storytelling for overcoming stigma. We've done a lot of that in social media. We're actually launching a few initiatives that I can't really talk about yet,
That's
but
okay.
that are very community driven, that are intended to help people see the positive side of surrogacy that'll be coming out soon so that people know it actually is just another way to build your family. It's not some terrible way to build your family.
Right. I mean, obviously, you and I both are, I'm forever grateful for this process. That's how I have my kids too. So
Yeah.
you're preaching to the choir on that one, but I think that's amazing to get the story, the good, positive stories out there.
Thank you. Thank you so
Yeah, I
much.
mean,
So
getting rid of
go
stigma is
ahead.
so huge. I mean, the way we always related, 15 years ago, no one talked about IVF. And now
Right.
everyone's like, wish me luck, going in for my egg retrieval, wish me luck, I'm going in for my transfer, send me
Oh,
money.
right.
And now, like, so the more people talk about surrogacy, the more commonplace it's just going to become.
Right. The
And that's
stigma
the
has
mainstream.
shifted from IVF being more commonplace to now this is like that next leap that seems can be a little more foreign to some.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
who can apply for the grant or the two grant main categories of grants? Is there a distinction between who applies for it, who's eligible for it?
Yeah, so there is we for the first time ever during this current grant cycle, we've expanded to any U.S. citizen or permanent resident. In the
Okay.
previous 2 years, we had limited to Georgia residents because we were learning. We knew
Right,
that
of
we were giving a
course.
lot of money away, and we wanted to make sure that we were successful, especially for our donors and for these families as well, setting them up for success. And then most of the other major requirements are related to like where they are in their journey. So we're trying to catch people at a kind of a pretty specific spot, which is you have embryos, they're euploid, they've been tested, and you have at least three of them cryopreserved in the US. And
Okay.
so, because we all know embryo creation process are not reliable and it's another cost that's associated with it. So we had to draw this distinction to make sure that we caught people right at the moment when they would be starting their
Not too
surrogacy
soon.
journey.
And
Yeah,
then does it matter
exactly.
with married, single, same sex, religion, any of that come
None
into
of that
play?
matters.
Yeah, we want to be completely inclusive. If you're a single parent by choice, if you're LGBTQ, if you're heterosexual, anybody can apply for our grants.
Okay. Amazing. And what about like how much does financial need factor into who gets the grant? Because obviously $100,000 is immensely helpful. I mean, it covers a huge portion, but there's other expenses, there's unknowns, there's raising the child. So how does that play into the grant process?
The financial component is definitely one of the harder components of the grant. We
Yeah.
have a phenomenal financial review committee that kind of helps go through the rubrics.
Okay.
Because we want to make sure is that, well, yes, we are giving away $100,000, and that's going to cover the major buckets of the surrogacy journey. We can't cover, the unknowns. We can't be this black hole of expenses. So we got to make
Right.
sure that whoever is awarded this grant can cover, whether it's insurance, bed rest, things
Right.
like that.
Right. Well, that's important. I'm sure not an easy task to decide who gets what. I mean, there's so many deserving people and families, and
I
it's a
always call
good,
it the financial sweet spot, right? It's like
mm,
it's a
yeah,
really hard decision because when you give out grants, you want to give it to the person financially that would never be able to afford it. But like
right.
Alexandra alluded to, you got to find that spot. But we also take into account we have a medical review committee, financial review committee, and a personal review committee. So we're
Okay.
going through all three stages, and they all have specific rubrics that they're judging against to be as objective as possible to make
That's
sure that we're
awesome.
making the best decision.
And then do you partner with particular clinics or lawyers or agencies to help offset costs that might not be covered by the grant? How does that work? I know some organizations do like a program with discounted program kind of thing.
Yeah. So what we do is we don't make that decision ahead of time because we want to preserve the intended parent's autonomy in making the decision where they
Mm,
have the best fit. And
okay.
equally, we want the organizations to work with parents that they're fit with. And so what we do is we actually have a list of people that have been willing to offer pro bono services,
Yeah.
namely agencies, attorneys, and mental health professionals
Right.
that have said, "Hey, we want to give a pro bono journey," and then we give a list to these
Okay. That's good.
finalists and winner or the winners at the end, and let them go through it and get to know these people and let the agencies go through it. There is one exception to that with the sponsored grant from Hatch.
Right.
Obviously, that couple will be working with Hatch Fertility, which is waiving their fee. But when it comes to all the other decisions, especially around the surrogate, that's something we want that family to make because it's their journey,
Right.
it's not
Absolutely.
ours. But I will say that, like, now that the costs have risen quite significantly since we started. And so a majority of the money that's spent is actually spent on the surrogate, right?
Hmm.
And we feel very strongly that that's not something we want to negotiate, right?
Right.
If the
Yes.
surrogate decides that she'll take a little bit less, that's great, but it's never something we'll ask.
Right.
So most of that $100,000 is usually going to the surrogate compensation and the
Okay.
allowances and things like that, and then the clinic costs, because the clinics are great and we can sometimes get discounts, but we have not traditionally gotten pro bono services from clinics.
And we're
Right.
not going
Right.
to be
Right.
moving the embryos between clinics.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Right.
tough too. That's a
That's
kind of
too.
a
Right.
logistical issue.
I mean, the fact that you both have been through it helps you understand at such a deep level, like about that importance of autonomy and feeling comfortable and not, negotiating down your surrogate. So, because all of that could lead to kind of hurdles and, bad intentions. So I think it's helpful that you kind of know that from a person. You wouldn't necessarily know that if you haven't been through it.
Right. If you haven't been through it and you hadn't seen the sacrifices that both the
Oh, yeah.
parents and the surrogates make in these relationships, you don't
Yeah.
realize how important building that trust is and really matching with these people in a way that is, advantageous for both parties in a way they're really comfortable. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. And you mentioned Hatch. I guess just for our listeners that might not know, could you just describe what they are, what their services are?
Yeah, so Hatch is a surrogacy agency. They're one of the largest in the country. They're based in California. They have a wonderful group of people over there. They actually have almost every single person on their staff has had some sort of personal
Mm,
experience with
connection.
surrogacy,
Yeah.
which makes a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to give a big shout out to Christy Dolan and Greg Wiles, the CEO and president, respectively.
Okay.
When I came to them to see if they would support the Surrogacy Foundation, they told me no to the ask donation, but then came back with, "Hey, can we sponsor a whole grant?" And they're
Wow.
the first ones to ever do this. right? And so
Awesome.
what we're hoping is not only that we get to give another grant, but that other people will see this and they'll see how big the need
Like a
is and they'll
leader,
join
yeah.
in and they'll find ways to give these parents more access to building their family.
Yeah, I mean, you truly are like establishing a standard. I mean, I've been involved with other nonprofits that mention the Surrogacy Foundation as a guide. And that's what made me think of you and to share with you on the show, because you're just creating, like you're trailblazing truly for this, for helping those going through this process.
Well, thank you so much. That's very kind.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what does the future hold? I know you have some top secret missions that are in the works, but what are some things that you can share with our listeners of what might be on the horizon with the Fertility Foundation?
Yeah, so I think, mostly we're going to continue building the things that we feel like people are missing in order to get access to this. And I'm not sharing any trade secrets here by saying
Right.
that there's a lack of advocacy in this space, right? There's a huge PR issue in this space. So we're trying to build things and enable people that have been through this before to get out in front of these policy decisions, to start building relationships with lawmakers and things like that, so that we have a voice in the room. I love the fact that there's so many supportive people in surrogacy, but frankly, it's a quiet go to your corner in the fertility world, right?
Hmm.
And so we're trying to bring it to the main stage because guess what? Infertility rates are only increasing. And what happens if IVF isn't successful or if you have other issues?
Right.
You have to use surrogacy. So
Hmm.
the growth is going to continue to happen for people who need it. So we have to get ahead of the game and make sure we're building the relationships and building safety and ethics into the process ahead of time. So a lot of our like mission and the things we're going to be doing in the future are mainly around how do we build a safe landscape so that more people can approach this, all while
Hmm.
supporting people financially as well.
Wow, it's really expanding from Alexandria sitting on the couch to money. It's so much more than money. It's really like just the whole concept, like keeping it alive and accessible and positive. It's a huge endeavor and so important, obviously.
Thank you. We appreciate it. We definitely have spent a lot of our time on it.
I
And
can imagine.
that's, about 20 months ago is when I made the jump from my full-time career to do this and only this,
Right.
along with a few volunteer opportunities, of course, in the field. But yeah, it's just we're dedicated to it. It's life's
Yeah.
work at this point.
Yeah, and I hope that you continue to grow it because it's so important, especially you Google surrogacy and like the articles, the negative is worse than the positive. It's especially recently. So it's so good to get the message out about the good about this process.
Thank you, Marla.
Which I know is like one sliver of what you're doing.
Yeah, no, it's just it's all part of it, right? And I think bringing the community together is another thing that's going to be really important for everyone. I think we all have the best of intentions, but we've all kind of been siloed to an extent in the fertility industry, and we're hoping that everybody can join hands. A lot of this, the nonprofit chatbot and things like that, they're meant to drive people towards working together so that we can create a better future for everyone that needs surrogacy.
I love it. Well, how can a listener support you, learn more, get involved? What is the best way to learn more about the foundation?
So the best way to learn more about the foundation is follow us on Instagram at the Surrogacy Foundation or go to our website at thesurrogacyfoundation.org. Reach out to us, email us, DM us. We would love to
Okay.
talk with you.
Honestly, I'm so grateful for what you both are doing and helping with the industry and helping people go through this process that I feel so passionately about. I know you both do too, clearly.
Yeah.
And thank you for your time today.
Yeah, thank you so much for creating a platform for this. I think one thing that the surrogacy field needs a lot more of is media. We need people out there telling these stories and stuff, and we are one small part of that. So thank you for giving us a platform and giving
Oh,
others a
my
platform.
pleasure. I mean, I look at myself like a human chatbot. Like I'll help give whatever information I can. I'm happy to help you guys as well. So I hope more future collaboration and just to further the mission. So thank you both so much.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks,
you.
Marla.